Previously on the Mike Wise Show.
No matter how well I played, how well I ran the team that night, how many games we won, like, you just couldn't please him.
Yeah.
And like, that was my fourth game with him. We were starting a West Coast trip, playing the Clippers, and I had what I thought was an unbelievable game. I had like 29 points. I had 10 assists, 9 rebounds, 2 turnovers, and we won at the end of a game in LA. And I was, we were kind of celebrating, walking through the tunnel, and Larry was coming behind us, and he was walking with his head down, shaking his head. And
oh man,
I don't know why I did, but I went back there. I was like, "Coach, what's up? You all right? What's going on?" And he looked at me in disgust, and he said, "Son, you just have no idea how to play that position for me."
Oh no!
I said, "Look, Coach, look, man. I don't know what in the world you're talking about, but tonight you're not about to steal my shine, bro. We're gonna talk about this tomorrow." And then I went on into the locker room, but and you know, it was me and him was, I mean, we that first probably 50 games, man. It was like it was back and forth like crazy. And then once I figured out, we met a lot, talked a lot, both were willing, you know, to really kind of change, work it out. Once I figured out that you couldn't please him, that he was just going to be who he was going to be, I quit worrying about it, and then our relationship took off like a rocket. It was awesome. So, yeah, but he made me better, man. He made me better. I love Larry. I'll jump off a bridge for Larry Brown, man.
That was future Hall of Famer Chauncey Billups from last week's Mike Wise Show talking about his complex relationship with Coach Larry Brown and how he was a tough grader. This week's guest is none other than Hall of Famer, Dream Teamer, and Brooklyn legend, Chris Mullin. And does he have some stories? Hit it, Darlene!
The Mike Wise Show is a presentation of Pure Hoops Media. The Mike Wise Show is hosted by a guy who played basketball atrociously for Hawaii Pacific College, which forced him into journalism. And, oh yeah, he wrote about basketball for the New York Times, the Washington Post, and ESPN. He's also a wise ass, and so are many of his guests. Right, Mike?
Welcome to the Mike Wise Show, formerly the Wise Ass Show, until Twitter made me change the name so we could get advertising. Chris Mullin, my guest today, being from Brooklyn and being about as real as I know, would have liked the original name, but you know how it is, Mullin. You got to be politically correct nowadays.
Mike, my pleasure to be here, and I love that name. I won't say it for your sponsor's sake, but I do love that name. In Brooklyn, it's like saying good morning. You know, that's with respect.
Right. They always said, like, you know, you go to New York and you ask a guy, "Excuse me, what time is it?" And the guy's like, "Well, what the hell do I look like, Big Ben?"
Exactly.
That's how people respond to you. Sir, you recently returned to your Bay Area home after a couple years at St. John's, your alma mater, coaching. You adjusting to Bay Area life again? Fairly easy?
Yeah, it's a seamless fit for anybody, I would think, Mike. And you spent some time out here, yeah. So my plan was always to come back. I've been blessed to be able to live on both coasts virtually my whole adult life. My 4 years at St. John's was great. I had a great time, coached some wonderful kids, and we had, you know, increased wins each and every season, and just time to do something different. And so I usually have a pretty good feel when it's time to move on. And I don't know who said it, but ideally a year too early as opposed to a year too late.
Yeah, before we get into that a little bit, I wanted to just say, going back to the Bay Area, did you get a chance to take in some of the last games of the Warriors at the old Oakland Coliseum Arena, obviously now the Oracle?
Yeah, I did. Actually, I was at the last game, Game 6 of the finals, and you know, it was obviously a different type of series historically, just because of those two, you know, horrific, season-ending injuries to Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson. But yeah, it's been a special place for the Warriors to play in Oakland. I came out here in 1985. And, and Mike, you've been around a long time. We all know sports is very cyclical, right? So then when those cycles change, you do have some input with good drafting and a little bit luck here and there, and of course health. But I've seen the Warriors, a lot of different cycles through my playing career. I was a GM for a while, and then just as a fan living in the area. So it was a glorious 5 years. It's one of the dynasties. And I think just recently, as we've seen all these players move, I think it shows how dominant they were, because a lot of these teams that have two superstars now, they couldn't compete with the Warriors team that was put together the last 3 years.
Yeah, no, you're right. And when I think of old school Warriors, I guess past Rick Barry and Nate Thurman and all those guys, I think Run TMC, probably being a little bit younger than you, only by months, I was in love with that team. I mean, that was the team I wish I was good enough to play on, and I never was, and therefore I watched. But man, you guys brought bask, and I know part of it was Nelly and his offensive ingenuity, but a lot of it was Tim Hardaway, Chris Mullin, and Mitch Richmond playing off each other like few players did in a post Big Three era after the Lakers and Celtics. And I always thought, even with Mr. Mean, Larry Smith, all the guys you had, I always thought that was the team I really wanted to win it all, because I thought before these Warriors did, those Warriors were like, they brought joy to the game. And to me, growing up in Northern California, Hawaii, wherever I was, that's what basketball was about. It made you want to go to the playground every day. And that's what Run TMC was about in my mind.
Yeah, I agree, Mike. And look, a lot had to do with the style of play. And Nelly was a genius. He really was, offensive genius on how to not only teach the game, but instill that freedom and passion which you're talking about, which really translates into a fan base, because people can tell if you're having fun, right? And of course, winning is first and foremost, but there is a style in how you do things that people also gravitate towards. So Mitch, Tim, and I only played 2 seasons together, which is amazing.
That's crazy. See, I would have said 6 to 7. That's crazy.
I didn't even know that till we all sat down. I think it was before I was inducted into the Hall of Fame. And I really didn't even know it till then. It felt like I played those guys forever. So the impact that style of play had, and it took a long time for it to break through to be a winner. I know Phoenix got close. Even when we were playing Run TMC, the Phoenix Suns were a good team at that. Cotton Fitzsimmons played that style. But just at that point in time, a lot of teams had great centers. So it was hard to play small because they would make you pay. They would just back you down the post and either get you in foul trouble or continuously put layups in. So it was a different time as far as having big players or legit centers back then. But it was a great time, and like you said, the impact that we had just in 2 seasons was pretty phenomenal.
No, it was, and it was. In a way, Run TMC, your Warrior teams were a pioneer to what the game became. I mean, like you said, so many teams came close. The Dallas Mavericks with Steve Nash and Dirk before Steve Nash went to Phoenix, and that became another team. And the Sacramento Kings. I mean, my sister lives in the Sacramento area, just seeing what that franchise was and what it became, and the Chris Webber, Mike Bibby days at their height, that was as fun and as entertaining and as competitive as basketball gets. And like you said, take Shaquille O'Neal out of the equation, and you got a 2 or 3 time champion right there. But it wasn't to be, and it wasn't till the Warriors of Steph and Clay and Draymond, and obviously some rule changes, that this Warriors area became a dynasty. I don't know if I was depressed, but it definitely brought back memories of all the things I'd seen at the Oakland Coliseum, from covering a high school game for the Sacramento Union back in I guess you were there then. I remember seeing Jason Kidd in 10th grade. St. Joe's was playing Crenshaw, and the whole place, not Crenshaw, but St. Joe's was playing Skyline, and some security guard from the Oakland Coliseum, I know you know who it is, he walks into the press room and he goes, You guys got to see this boy out there. He's half white, half black. He's taking over the arena. And I think about the nights that you were there. I think of the night, I remember Tracy Murray scoring like 66 in a game in high school. I remember Rick Barry. Closing that building down, man. It brought back a lot of nostalgia and memories. And I know that they're still the Golden State Warriors, but leaving Oakland, man, I think that's a punch to the heart for a lot of that community.
Yeah, well, there's not a lot of fan bases in the NBA that kind of relate to their fan base as much as Oakland did with their fan base. Each telecast you see, they just go through the crowd and say this crowd's been here so long, almost like a college atmosphere type situation. And I think it's because of the cycles that it's went through, and that the fan base was always so consistent and loyal. And you talk about the history, Mike. You have to mention Al Attles, right? The guy dedicated his whole life. He was the GM when I came here, played every role in the organization, and did it with dignity and class, and just the perfect role model for every NBA player. How to handle yourself in good times and bad. Nate Thurman, Rick Barry. You mentioned some of the great players that came through here. So there's a proud franchise, and they're just coming off an incredible dynasty of 5 years. But also, you talk about the style of play, Mike. It's funny how, to me, it all gets back to like the Knicks and the Celtics, right? So you talked about, Run TMC. That was Nelly really teaching fast break basketball with the pass, right? And Nelly always preached, if you put the 5 smalls on the court and play 5 bigs, the 5 smalls are going to beat them because of skill, right? Passing, shooting, quickness. And then you brought up Sacramento. That was Rick Adelman really teaching Dr. Jack Ramsey's Portland style.
Oh, yeah.
Passing, spacing. And then you talk about Steve Kerr, who just, had just incredible 5 years. That comes from Phil Jackson, who came from Red Holzman. So it really gets back to the old 60s and 70s Celtics with passing. I remember watching the Knicks when I was growing up. Their motto was hit the open man. Just keep that ball moving. And I could still see Bill Bradley, Dave DeBusschere, Willis Reed, just sharing the ball and just let that ball move and get the open shot. So it's funny how, look, the athletes, the guys are more athletic, but I think the game is in a great place now because it's emphasizing skill. It's not just about size and strength, and there's a place for everybody. Who knows, years earlier, does Steph Curry become one of the greatest players ever we've seen?
Yeah, no, you're so right. It always bothered me, like when I loved the Celtics and Lakers and they were physical and defenses one chain, all that. The bottom line was the skill level of those guys. For so long, a guy with James Worthy's build almost was, like if you didn't look like Anthony Mason or somebody of that size, you couldn't play that position anymore. And I was like, come on now. James Worthy was an all-time player, and he was strong. He was physical. He could run. He could shoot. But what he did most was he played basketball. He was a basketball player. He wasn't just a specialist that, got in somebody's grill. He did everything. And now that game has come back, it's that much better. It's that much better a league. Chris Mullin's my guest. If anybody doesn't know Mully, well, you need to. He's a 2-time Hall of Famer. He went in with the Dream Team in 2010, and then as an individual in 2011. He's done more in basketball than only a handful of players in this world. And he's coming off coaching college now. He's back in the Bay Area. What are you going to do next?
I think this year I might do some TV this year. I might just take a year and kind of enjoy it and get acclimated back to the NBA a bit, and really just kind of have a year rejuvenation, get on a little lighter schedule, and just kind of enjoy life, man.
ESPN, Fox, TNT, where are you going?
I don't know yet. We'll see.
You enjoyed it?
Yeah, it was good. I was with Bruce Bernstein and the guys after my GM stint. I was there for 3 years. Did radio, did TV, did all the NBA shows, and so it's a good experience. I kind of know the lay of the land, so I liked it. I enjoyed it.
Again, a person I've never heard of, Bruce Bernstein. I have no idea who you talk.
He was in charge of telling us where to go and when to be there.
Hey, if he didn't do that,
that's the ultimate boss. I mean, he's controlling your schedule.
Oh no! If he wasn't in my life right now, they wouldn't even hear about me in the NBA anymore. Like the guy's indispensable, as you know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I look at. Do you still have a decent relationship with Nelly? Do you talk to him anymore?
I haven't spoke to him recently. But we go way back. Nelly and I. Look, he coached me. It was my favorite time playing basketball. His style. He taught me so much about. Intricacy of the game and, just the team dynamic. And then when I was a GM, I brought him back to coach. He was able to break the most wins coaching record. And now he's living a good life in Maui. And so I haven't been over there. I was over there. We went over with St. John's one year, but I don't think he was in town when I was there. But he's a great, great guy, and I got nothing but admiration and respect for him.
Yeah, no, I think of Nelly, and I just think the story on Real Sports, lives in Maui, plays poker, grows weed, takes a puff now and then, hangs with Willie Nelson, Willie Nelson, and was recently in, a really nice story, was reunited with a daughter he never knew he had. I mean, when he was coach of the Knicks for a very short time, there were a couple of moments where I was like, is he just trying to get fired here? But he was such a different guy. And I know he not only gave you a great professional life and what he taught you, he was instrumental, if I remember, in helping you deal with your addiction to alcohol.
Yeah, so a lot of people had a lot of input on that, and Nelly was great. Was very straightforward with me. Anyone that's in the 12-step program understands it's really not a human intervention. It's really divine intervention that really, really has to take over your life. So there was a lot of people that helped me. Nelly was absolutely one of them. Like I said, so looking back, I'm so grateful for playing for him. Like I said, not just as a player, but also the things that he helped me with off the court. Were very, very important to me, and I'm, to this day, very grateful for that. And I just, always marveled at his genius, right? So he was a great coach in Milwaukee. They had some great teams there. Marcus Johnson, Sidney Moncrief, and battled the Celtics in those Eastern Conference battles, and the Celtics and the Philadelphia 76ers. Then when he came out here, he turned this Golden State Warrior franchise around, and like you said, he bounced around. He stopped at the Knicks, got Dallas right to the brink, to where they, a few years later they were able to win a championship. So he's left his mark wherever he's been, on and off the court, and I'm sure he's leaving his mark in Maui. Obviously off the court now. You mentioned his buddies over there that hang with him, and he deserves a good life because he's a good man.
The Nelly, the old Celtic. Now a 79-year-old stoner in Hawaii. I can't imagine what Red Hour back wherever he is now must be just shaking his head like going, God damn.
You know what? Red might be. He probably would go join him right now. He'd probably say, instead, let me put something in this cigar. I'll hang out.
Chris Mullin's the guest. Mully's been great on and off the court. I don't know if I ever told you this, but my father was an alcoholic, recovering alcoholic. As I became a teenager, he got into AA. And later, I never knew that any of that stuff affected me. Of course, I ended up in an adult ACOA group, Adult Children of Alcoholics. And I'll tell you what, at one point in my life, man, this program, 12-step, talking to guys about stuff that most men don't talk about between themselves, it helped me save my life at one point. And so I guess what I wanted to salute you for was at a time when guys, now I know it's very in to come out and say, I received help, I asked for help. And whether it's Meta World Peace, whether it's a player with an alcohol or drug problem, there is something about coming forward and saying, this is what I'm going through. At the time, it was a big stigma, like, oh no, Mully's a drunk. What's he doing? His career is over. And you took it head on, and you didn't mind talking about it. And so anyway, for what it's worth, I wanted to salute you for that. I know it's 20 years late.
Yeah, but I think that there's a lot to be said about that, Mike. This day and age, the good thing is it's become a little bit easier for people to do that. Not totally, right? So there's still a lot of people that suffer, and it's important that they know there's a way out and there's help, and people are there to help and support them. And that's what I received, and it's important you give that back, right? So there's a lot of different sayings in the program, and to keep it, you have to give it away. So you got to be willing to help the other person that's suffering, right? And so being grateful and being humble is very important. But I do think there's a lot of things that I don't like about social media, but if it brings out education and avenues for people to release and share their feelings, I think that has been a positive.
Yeah.
You mentioned different people with mental illness and different things, whatever it might be. We all suffer at some point in our lives with something, right? And so the strength really is in having someone to share your feelings with and just get it off your shoulders. So there was a point in time in my life that people were there for me, right? My family was there for me, my coaches, Coach Bonaseka, Nelly, my agent Bill Pollock, they were all there for me. So I felt confident that I was going to be okay. I didn't know it, but there was enough support where I had the confidence that I was going to be okay, whatever that might be. And I actually, you got to take that risk. I was willing to give my career up to be happy because I was not a happy person at that point in time. I think the long-term effects have been I've been very open with other people and also with my life. If things are not going right, I'm able to step away, take time to figure it out. It doesn't always have to be this day has to be filled with multiple things and multitasking. Sometimes your body and your mind needs a little break. And that's one thing I wonder about. This day and age, we always talk about load management these days. I think that's a popular term physically, but it's always related to the physical part. The other part too is the mental part. There is a part where you need load management for your brain, and you need some downtime. So yeah, it's a good thing I think to share that. And like you said, everyone's had whether it be cancer, alcohol, drugs, mental illness, whatever it might be, we all go through something. So it's nice for people to know that, you're not alone. That's the first and foremost thing. And there's no stigma. You're part of a huge group, and that's what it's all about, is sharing and helping other people.
No, I remember getting out of one of these places, whatever they call intimacy relationship group. I'm in Georgetown and at some church, and I walk out one day and I wasn't part of the what you call the fucked up men's club anymore. I was part of a club that actually got outside those doors one day and looked at everybody else and said, wait a minute, that guy needs to be in the room too. Like the people on the outside that aren't dealing with this stuff are the people that need to be in this room, because it's actually the healing club. It's not the messed up club.
Right. And then there's also, you take that to a different level, Mike, in an athletics standpoint, where you take everything on, right? You never give up. You just compete and compete. What I did learn is that there's actually power in surrendering. Surrendering is not a weak thing. You surrender to be able to move on, right? So sometimes that's like a curse word in sports, right? But in life, it's a powerful thing to be able to be vulnerable, surrender, and then move on.
Yeah, and then give up and realize you don't control everything. And it's just, that was one of the great things. The guy comes into the room one day and he says, "Hey, I have a real problem. I don't even believe in God." And this guy looked at me and goes, "You know what? Your higher power could be a squirrel." He said, "But the bottom line is," he goes, "you don't have to believe in God to be in here." He said, "You just have to know you're not him." And I was like, you know what?
Is a beautiful thing. Serenity is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I also want to say, everybody knows a lot of your charitable efforts with many different people. One of them was a guy that I've been doing a story on for Sports Illustrated, working on for like a year now, and it's going to come out very soon. And I don't care to tell. It's not exactly a scoop, because nobody's going to have the relationship I've developed with this kid. And he's not a kid. He's 50 now. Demetrius Hook Mitchell. Someone told me that you had offered, he's this playground legend from Oakland. I'm sure you know of him. He said that you had offered him a job at one point or some help with the Warriors. Is that correct?
Yeah. So again, you go back to basketball, man. It's funny how it connects people, and I've been fortunate enough to I mentioned earlier, my whole adult life being bi-coastal, being in the Bay Area in New York.
Yeah.
Two of the greatest cities in the world, and basketball is a huge impact on both communities. So I've got to know so many different people, different generations. So back, when you mentioned Jason Kidd, I remember playing with him. He was 10th, 11th grade. He played pickup with us, and I was picking
awesome.
him. I was picking him first, even back then.
Wow.
He was such a great player. But Hook Mitchell was in with that group of guys. Antonio Davis was another local Oakland guy who was friends with Hook, and we'd all play back in the day before we had practice facilities. We would bounce around all over Oakland. And there was a time we would practice Alameda College. It's just a little junior college over at Alameda. And they'd all come over and play pickup with us. Tim Mitch and Brian Shaw, Gary Payton, Steve Nash, up and down the line, you name it.
Oh, yeah, because Nash was at Santa Clara then.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we had a great gym, and Hook was one of those legendary park guys, much like the guys in the Rucker, and you hear about different guys. The helicopter in New York, guys like that. So back when I was the GM, I would bump into him. One day I was coming out of the draft meeting, I saw him in the street, and I told him, I said, "Man, just come see me." He was, he was a little banged up at the time. I said, "If you want to spend some time," and that's kind of what I'm talking about, just being.
Yeah.
But for the grace of God, there go I, right? So as opposed to judging and like that, just lending someone, maybe sometimes it's just a time or just a hello or a smile. So he's a legendary Oakland, street guy, park player. Had some tough times, but I always felt like in his eyes, I could see like a good person, and he had a good heart. Yeah.
Did he ever take you up on that or not?
I know he started doing some camps. He started doing some community outreach with the Warriors. You know what I mean? We do work. The kids came up. I think I gave him a tryout. He came up and tried out a little bit.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He had you gave him a tryout, and he it was like 2007 or something.
Yeah, he came up. We had like a free agent camp. I invited him up, and I think if you talk to him again, I think he wasn't really in great shape. So I think he cramped up a little bit and couldn't get through the workout. But it was more to get back into society, right? Being accepted and just give a guy a chance. That's all it was.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And people are familiar with the story where after Manu Bol, rest in peace, he had hurt himself really bad in a taxi cab incident. You and the Warriors offered to raise money for his medical bills. You remained close to him, right up until his passing. Are you in touch with Bol, his son, much?
Yeah, I know Bol pretty well.
Good.
Sweet kid. He's a sweet kid. Got a lot of minute in him too. It's amazing how the genes just get passed down. He's got a lot of minute in him. And so Manute, look, I played with Manute just a few years as well, but I go back. He played with my brother at the University of Bridgeport, so I met Manute when I was in college.
That's
right. So I knew him. Yeah, I knew him when he first came over. They used to actually come down from Bridgeport to watch me play at St. John's. So we go way back. So it's amazing to watch just some of Bobo's mannerisms that just bring back. I just see Manute so much in him, and he's going to be a heck of a. He's a talented kid, boy. I tell you, I watched him. I recruited him a little bit to come to St. John's. I watched him a lot through the AAU circuit, and he's got a lot of talent. I see a little bit. Denver picked him 44th in the second round, 44th overall. I think they picked Jokic at 48. So if he can get himself healthy, I think in a few years, man, that could be a huge pickup for the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. That's a team that's on the doorstep now with how all the craziness in the offseason. We have much more coming up with Chris Mullin, including great stories about Larry Bird, Larry Brown, and Mark Jackson. But first, shameless plugs for our other Pure Hoops Media shows. They're all great, featuring marquee guests like Chris Mullin, many other Hall of Famers, great characters and influencers of the game, and a level of discussion that will make you a smarter fan. I'm here each Monday with the Mike Wise Show. Wednesday, we present Catch and Shoot with Noah Kozlov and Adam Stanko. If you didn't hear their most recent show with former Sixer and net Todd McCulloch, you need to check it out. It is hysterical, and I mean that. We also have Buckets, Boards, and Blocks with Monica McNutt and her cast of characters. They chop it up with a new show every Thursday. And Friday, it's the Pure Hoops podcast with BJ Armstrong and Eric Newman. If you want great takes and great interviews, check all of our shows out. Chris Mullin is my guest. Mully is giving me some gifts here. I would like to extract a few more from him because, look, besides his New York upbringing, besides his Brooklyn roots, besides all the great days at St. John's when wearing a T-shirt under your uniform was a thing, because Patrick Ewing did it too. Wait, who did it first? You or him?
I think Patrick. But you know what?
Okay.
You'd have to, if you get a hold of him, you can. Back then, so that's when we first moved from like the campus gyms over to the arenas.
Yep.
We mostly played at noon, and a lot of times the ice was down and the place was freezing. That's really, we started wearing like hooded sweatshirts to warm up because the gyms were freezing.
Well, and a lot of them had hockey games too. The big
exactly. So they'd have the hockey game the night before, leave the ice down, they'd throw us on the floor. That's when we played Boston College at the Boston Garden, and we played the Cap Center, the Garden, and we played Villanova over at the old Spectrum.
Well, that's one of those little anecdotes. Like, I had no idea. I thought it was a style thing. That's unbelievable.
No, not for me. Yeah. Maybe Patrick. Patrick had a nice little T-shirt with a switch on. Nike might have been taking care of him even back then. Who knows?
Yeah. Hey, if he wasn't,
I had a white Hanes T-shirt on.
Yeah, you had a white Hanes T-shirt. Yeah, Nike might have been taking care of him. If he wasn't taken care of, he should have been. Every time I see now a story about like college player accepts my like I always think like the headline should be, Chris Webber didn't accept a dime as the top high school player in the nation. Like, what? The top high school player didn't get any money? What kind of that's wrong? Yeah. Like, to me, it's just good, the whole system. But at any rate, you were selected to a team that is still and forevermore going to be looked at as the standard in an international basketball because it was the first year that pros were allowed. The Dream Team. I know you only started 2 games, but you were integral in that part. And what an experience! I look back on that, and I just say like, wow, whatever David Stern was trying to do, it worked because people were buying NBA gear all over the world after that. And anything that really stands out memory wise.
Yeah, so after it's almost going on 30 years, right? So after the basketball itself was dynamic and phenomenal and fun, and we dominated and we played together. All the great things you would say about a basketball team is true. I think what you bring up now is really, really amazing is David Stern's genius, right? You talk about genius coaches, genius players, and things like that. What David Stern did, and he knew he was doing it at the time. That's what always got him. I remember him sitting down, telling us this what we're doing right now, and this is in the moment, right? It's going to have a huge impact beyond what you guys can imagine. And what he was talking about was bringing that game global. Bringing something that could only be a dream to reality to these kids over in Europe and all over the world, right? And lo and behold, here we sit here today. A third of the league is foreign-born players. Some of our best players in the league are foreign-born guys, and a lot of them, the first glimpse they got of NBA basketball up close and personal was that Dream Team. So that was a genius move by David Stern, very calculated, and it came true. And I think we all can nothing but gratitude and thankful for David Stern and his brilliant mind.
Yeah, in so many ways. I still remember the story of the guy, like a little TV guy, foreign journalist from Argentina. His name was Adrian Paenza. You probably met him once or twice. And he comes up to the NBA office, and Stern had just gotten the job. And he said, hey, Stern says, I'd like to offer you the TV rights to the NBA. And he told the guy, Adrian Paenza, I'll give them to you for $2,000. And so now this guy is like, thinking that's it, 2000, and he puts these highlights on every night on his little Canal 9 channel in Argentina, and who sees him but 7-year-old Manu Ginobili, and he stays up late, and instead of like wanting to be, grow up as Messi or Maradona, he wants to be Michael Jordan, he wants to be Chris Mullin, he wants to be that next great player in the NBA. And all of a sudden you got guys from all over that probably bought rights for 2000 to the NBA in 1984 or whatever. And this is what it became. I mean, it's just crazy. You're right. David Stern was a genius in so many ways.
Yeah. And I thought he was very meticulous and very serious about how each and every decision he made was to make the league better, make it more respectable. And he did it to each and every individual player, each organization. And then look, I mean, it's the most popular sport. I guess still a little bit behind soccer as far as worldwide, but it keeps gaining ground. And I think it all started with David Stern.
When I really got to know you, you probably don't remember when I really got to know you was when I was covering the NBA for the New York Times, and I really loved that Pacers team at the turn of the millennium, where I just thought, man. And Chauncey Billups gave me a great anecdote about, I don't think obviously he's pumping him up for himself for the Hall of Fame, but he made a great point. He said, I've researched this and I have not found a player that had bounced around so much as I had at 6-7 years and ended up getting off the mat and becoming a finals MVP. And there's no better story in basketball to me than the turn back the clock story. In many ways, I feel like, not that the war, but Nelly kind of gave up on you as a player. He loved you as a person, but he gave up on you as a player in those mid 90s. And you were sent to Indiana for Dampier and I forget who else. And I remember myself like, how much money's got left? And yet you started all 82 games that next season. And that's where I felt like I really got to know you, like not only the pulse of that team, but like there was a pride in you that like, my career is not going to end as some guy that was injured at the end and was not in the rotation. And, because Sprewell became the guy, like I felt like you really turned back the clock. That's got to still be prideful for you in a way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Wow. So
I know I just dropped a lot on you there. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. So 98. So yeah. So obviously the franchise was changing, right? Spree was an up-and-coming star. We had Joe Smith, I think, in the mix there early. He was a Rookie of the Year. We had changed coaches. So Nelly had left. Rick Adelman came in for a few years. And then actually PJ had just gotten the job. And I was willing to stay at that point in time. I knew PJ very, very well. His dad was very close friends with Coach Conaseca. So, and PJ was an assistant on the Dream Team. There was a connection there. But at that point in time, if I was going to stay, I was going to stay. So I had just finished, I think, my 12th season playing for the Warriors. Had young children. If I was going to stay for the Warriors, I wanted to stay. So we were talking about different contract situations. One thing because the team was rebuilding, and I knew it, and I had been here the whole time. I said, but if I stay, you're not trading me in my 14th year, if I'm not. So no trade, and so lo and behold, Larry got the job. I had a connection with Larry because we played in the Dream Team, and so we worked out a trade. So that's how that went down. And actually, you mentioned starting 82 games. In my mind, so I'm going into my 13th year, 34, 35. Look, I thought I was going to be coming off the bench, which would have been fine with me with that team. It was a really, really good team I was joining. But Derek McKee coming into training camp had knee surgeries. I was kind of forced into starting lineup, and but I took a lot of pride later in my career, just staying fit, staying ready. So my 2 years with the Pacers, my first 2 years, I think I played quite a bit. We had a really deep team. Larry was a great coach. We had a great staff with Rick Carlisle,
Dick Carter.
Dick Carter ran the defense. I got reunited with Mark Jackson. I knew him since he was 16 years old. So that was incredible to get reunited with Mark. Played with Reggie Miller, Rick Smits, Antonio and Dale Davis. Derek McKee, Sam Perkins. We had a great team.
That team. I love it. I don't know what, maybe because I got all, sort of like Bird was, even though he wasn't that much older than me. Bird and Magic were the last guys I had to take the posters down off my bedroom wall when I became a journalist. Like, oh yeah, I got to cover these guys now. But man, they were my idols. And in some ways, I'm sure you looked up to Bird in a way. And all of a sudden, he's your player. And then you go from playing with him on the dream team to, oh crap. And I don't know if you got this at all. I mean, I'm sure like people tried to make more of it than it was because, as you know, if you could play, you could play. But like people were like, oh, Molly, the great white hope after Bird. Like you that was a stigma. I mean, that was a stigma. Whether you took pride in it or not, people wanted to say like, and that went for everybody, by the way. In my little 1-year college basketball career for Hawaii Pacific, like I literally would go to the sub-base gym and all the brothers, like the respect level was like, oh, it's Bird. I'm like, oh, I'm 16. They're calling me Bird. I love this. Like at some point, like, was that a point of pride for you? Or was like, you know what, fellas, I'm white, but I can play. Like, where do you come down on that?
Yeah. I mean, growing up in New York was really, it was about seizing the day, play good that day or don't come back. So that was the pressure in itself, not really, look, there was some great players that, there's always great players that people, they can look at you and compare you to. But I never really felt that. I tried to emulate Larry Bird. I loved his game. I loved Magic, John Havlicek, Walt Frazier, Pistol Pete Maravich. These were players that I just loved, and I tried to emulate them. I thought they were great players, and if I could take something from the game, I would try and do it. But playing for Larry was awesome. Larry was just as a player, no bullshit, straight up, tell you like it is. He didn't do anything he didn't like to do, which I love. He didn't like to, as a player, watch, just watch film for the sake of watching it. He would scale it down to stuff he felt we needed. Practice was all business. He was really into preparing and then going out there and playing and bringing your A game. Not a lot of room, be on time, be prepared, play hard, play together, boom. And it sounds simple, but that's what he did. And he didn't make much more of it than that. And just like a player, he kept it simple. And then he did his job, and he did it each and every day. So I actually took a lot from playing for him when I coached. My 4 years coaching, I took a lot from him on just keep it simple.
Yes.
Come to work and focus on practice. And in the game, man, let it fly. That's why you practice, is to go out there and perform.
As much as he had, as much as he wanted to win the title when they went against the Lakers in 2000, I still feel like, man, it just broke his heart when you guys lost Game 7 against the Bulls. Because I thought of all the times that somebody was going to have Michael's number, it was going to be that season. I mean, that was the year that the Knicks had beaten the Bulls twice in the regular season, including like last day of the regular season. Like I remember Frank Isola and I are sitting courtside, and John Starks just gets this ball that rolls out to him. He hits this three at the United Center, and it's like, holy, that's the last day of the regular season. They just beat him. Like if they had not gotten thrown out, those guys got not thrown out for leaving the bench against Miami, I thought they would have given the Bulls all they could handle. You guys gave the Bulls all you can handle that year.
Yeah, it's funny. Larry had been so many playoff battles as a player. And you talk about just keeping things so simple. Larry was into each and every regular season game because he knew, and then he talked to us. Even I remember the first week of the season, I thought he was crazy. Like, man, we dropped the game, I think, somewhere, first in November, and he was pissed. His focus was having home court, having that game. Yep, and so he was very meticulous on that, and so that Game 7 was in Chicago. So in the back of his mind, if, 1 or 2 games in the regular season, we have that game at that point in time, it was probably Market Square Arena before Conseco and whatever it's called now. But
and Market Square Arena was on fire. I mean, that was beyond loud. Yeah.
So just the old school, like every game does count because that Game 7 could have been our home game. But yeah, it was a great game. I think we had a double-digit lead in the first half, and Michael and Scotty. Just turned up the defense and just made it tough, and they got it. Look, they probably got a few calls. It was a home court, and I remember Scotty just manhandling / assaulting Mark Jackson, but that's the way it was.
Scottie Pippen. I'm still a little bit disappointed with a couple possessions at the end, but I thought Jax should have executed better. But Scottie Pippen treated him like the Knicks treated Scottie Pippen for years.
Pretty much.
It was just, he mugged him. There was no call. It was ridiculous. Yeah. And Mark, as you know, not a finesse player, but a guy that's not as physical as some point guards. Man, he just I'm still upset about that.
But tough as nails. The only way you're getting the ball from is if you foul. You're not getting the ball from Mark Jackson if you foul.
He used his bump and grind better than almost anybody. Speaking of Mark Jackson, here's a guy, and I know, with all your history with him and everything, I look back, I look at now, and I'm like, and I spoke to him about this at the finals last season, and he said, you could write it, but I can't. How come he doesn't have a gig? I mean, to me, he's like Tony Dungy was for the Buccaneers before John Gruden won the title. Like, he had an oiled machine with the Warriors, and Steve Kerr, added a little extra. But I don't know. I think Mark Jackson deserves some kind of, second opportunity as a coach in this league. What do you think that's really about?
No, well, I don't know what it's about, but 100% he deserves to be a head coach. I think he will be. But that's my hope. I do think he will be. He's been too good. And look, there's always a cycle to these teams, right? So they don't just show up. Even the individually. Steph Curry had a really hard time injury-wise, right?
Yes.
To get to where he was. Part of the reason that team was able to be put together was because of his injury, because he took a lower deal, and different things happened. But so the people forget the journey that they go on, because when you win a championship, that's all you talk about. Mark Jackson engineered the steps to the process to get to that point. Didn't get to finish it off. The reasons, I don't know. I was actually working at ESPN when Mark was coaching at the Warriors, but I know what. You can't dispute the great job he did. There's no way. And I think they lost Game 7 in the semifinals at the Clippers. Another Game 7 on the road, and that was the next step. But I agree, Mike. He needs to be head coach in the NBA, and I think he will be.
Andre Iguodala said a rift between Warriors president Rick Welch, who's obviously openly gay, and Mark, who expressed his beliefs, and he didn't accept same-sex marriage in the way that most of the rest of society. He said that he thought that was something that had something to do with possibly being blackballed. Do you believe that?
I have no idea on that. Andre Iguodala, he was on that team.
Yeah.
I have no idea inside the building what was going on.
Yeah, that's one of those ones where I need to turn the recorder off and ask. No, I'm kidding.
No. I mean, that's straight. Yeah. I don't know. That could be very well Andre Iguodala. I'm not questioning him, but I sure don't know.
Yeah, no. I wonder. I mean, the NBA is the most inclusive league, and I do think while it doesn't restrict beliefs of others, if you don't look inclusive on paper all the time, I could see them penalizing him in ways that had nothing to do with his coaching ability. Right, and that's just a speculation. I'm not going to come out there and say that's the definitive reason unless I had proof that those conversations were going on. Whatever the reason is, it's wrong, and Mark Jackson needs to get another shot. We both agree on that. Right?
Yeah, that's non-disputable. His accomplishments as a coach, and the fact that he needs to be a coach in the NBA again, I think is where I'm pointing with that one.
All right, Chris Mullin for a few more minutes. My guest on the Mike Wise Show. He's as great as he's ever been. A couple of lightning round things I always wanted to ask. There was a story that even Chuck Person in his final days as a Pacer sort of went off like, you're not like you were, Larry. And he challenged Bird to a shooting contest, and Larry just took him out again, even when he was coach. True or not? Or did you just?
I don't know about that.
You weren't there.
No, I don't know about that. I saw Larry shoot him out in the game, though. I know that much. in one of those playoff games.
Oh yeah. No, Larry told me once. He said, "I like Chuck, great player." He said he was happy to get to Game 5. I was going to win Game 5, and that's classic Larry Bird to me. You know,
Yeah,
he was.
no doubt.
Did you guys ever have a conversation about the Great White Hope thing? You and Larry?
No,
Yeah.
not never. No, we never even looked at anything but can you play?
Yeah.
Can you play? It doesn't matter. That's all it was.
It's amazing to me how people outside the NBA would like, in some ways, the way in which Tiger is looked at on the golf course. Like, hey, there's a racial identification there. I want to see somebody who looks like me play. To me, there was so much of that going on with you and Bird and whoever, Kevin Love now, JJ Redick. And I look at it and I go, it's one thing to racially identify. It's another thing if you only like players that look like you. Wait,
No,
did you just say you're going to play at 5?
Yeah, I live on a golf course. This guy just pulled up. He hit a ball in my front yard. He said, "You're gonna play that guy?" Yeah. When the sun goes down, I'm gonna play. Yeah, I'm gonna play.
That's just disappointing to me, Mullin, because I thought you were going to get into a run. It's going to be the 3-on-3 tournament or something.
No. Women. That's about it right now. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
No, but look. So to me, the basketball's always been the greatest connector with people.
Yeah,
it
crosses race, it crosses a creed, crosses nations. I mean, you're right.
No doubt, it's a beautiful thing. And like I said, in the '70s, going up to Harlem and just playing ball, man, and just getting accepted. And then those people are friends of mine to this day, and it's really because of basketball. It broke down barriers, man. It's just a beautiful thing, and it never came up ever. It was just, can you play?
I love that story because Bird said the exact same thing about 20 years ago when I interviewed him about, hey, if you're from Kuwait and you're 6'9" and you can handle a ball or you can shoot, you're going to find a way. And to this day, it's good to hear that. The St. John's situation, you said you left probably before it was time. You did better that program. Even though you had a losing record over the time you were there, I think it was 59, 73 or something. You did better that program. It said you stepped away for personal reasons. You don't have to go into it or not, but it said that, one of the reasons was your brother Roddy had passed away from cancer. Was that true?
Yeah, well, personal reasons being my reason was personal. It was just time to go. Again, there's a lot of different factors that go into my decision making.
So that wasn't the primary reason, or
no, that had a lot to do. My brother Rob, who was tight as anybody, that was my first hero. My older brother, he was my idol. So and quite frankly, he came to every home game, sat right behind me. He loved the games. He loved, those guys. What happened when my 4 years? All my friends from grade school came back. Man, they came back to watch and cheer us on. And so that part there was a lot of great things that happened there. And look, after our first year, which I think you guys have all those analytics. Everyone's into analytics. Look up if there's ever been a college team that had 1 point remaining in 3-minute playing time. That's what we inherited.
Wow.
So
one more time.
I think we inherited 1 point and 3 minutes of playing time. I think historically the least ever in the history of the sport of basketball.
Yes.
So, after that first year, we did really, really well. Last season, went 21-13, made the NCAA tournament. So the basketball part was right on par. It's just college basketball has a lot of stuff outside of basketball that just drained. It was draining, whether it be just the daily routine of, making sure you're taking care of teenagers, whether it be class, tutoring, meals, housing, just up and down the line. And over time just become a bit much, and it's not that I didn't want to. For 4 years I did it and I just didn't want to do it anymore. So they're in a good play. We left them with some good players, definitely not 1 point in 3 minutes of playing time. So they're in a good place. So, like I said,
but
sometimes you got to be honest with yourself and the summers I like to have my summer. I really do, and the summer recruiting, You go to summer school. You have to have that. That summer is really important for those kids to develop. We had incredible workouts in the summertime. Our summers were as good as any I've seen at any level. We just had a great. My staff at Mitch, Richmond, Greg St. Jean, our basketball was really, really up to par with any NBA staff, I felt. So, but after a while, it becomes a bit much.
And you took him to the tournament. I mean, this is funny. I mean, I know you and Roddy were swimmers growing up until, he basically chose hoops and made you choose hoops. And I look, and my son is like 8 now. I got married really late. And he's doing the same thing. He's doing swimming and basketball all summer. Yeah. And of course, I want him to play basketball, but with my genes, he's going to probably have to swim. But the bottom line is, like, this was a guy in your life who, I mean, I don't know. This is a guy like in your life who you were seeing him at Memorial Sloan Kettering every day. You're worried about your team in the tournament. And I don't know, it just seemed like a lot. And anyway, I wanted to.
The flip side too is like that was one of the things that we connected on, right? And that wasn't going to be there. So there's a lot of different things, that go into decision. Yeah. I will say this: I haven't regretted one day. I'm glad I'm glad I did it. I had a great time. I'm also glad I decided to step away.
Yeah, I am too, because you wouldn't have the time to do this. You'd be at some gym.
No doubt.
You'd be at my.
I'd be in some. I'd be at the Peach Jam right now watching some bad basketball.
Maybe not only that, like you pretty much have to recruit off sonograms now. It used to be like at least you would like what's the earliest recruiting that people do now in college in your mind? And what
first of all, the word recruiting is a polite word. It's probably not recruiting. It's probably a lot of other words besides that. And look, St. John's has always been a unique place in that respect. What we had to do, we really went into the transfer market, which has always been a market for St. John's, because kids, even when I played with transfers every year. I played there because
Walter Berry, but he was
of course, JC guys and transfers, because they would leave, they'd get homesick and come back. That was a market. But in the Big East, a lot of those schools just have really advanced their programs. From facility-wise to different, they just have a lot to offer. It's very competitive. But like I said, so the transfer market was good for us. We had a few JC kids, which was good.
What's the youngest kid you ever recruited? Went to see a game, like however the kid was, 10, 8, whatever. And
no, I would never do that. That's no.
Because there's guys in your profession who do that.
I know, it's pretty embarrassing, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
I wouldn't do that. There's a word for that too, but I wouldn't. That's ridiculous.
It's called child endangerment, pretty much.
Something.
Yeah. All right. Last ones. I want. The show began with Chauncey Billups talking about playing for Larry Brown. He had a great clip last week, and and how he could have a triple-double in a win and still never please Larry. You played for LB. You got to have a story or two about him.
No, I never played for Larry Brown. I know
that's
Larry
right,
Brown.
You did.
No, so when Larry Bird came in, Larry Brown left. But Donnie Walsh knows Larry Brown probably better than anybody. They went to college together, both New Yorkers. I know so many people that played for Mark Jackson played for Larry Brown, I think 4 times.
Yeah.
The most fundamental, dedicated basketball person I know. Loves the game of basketball. Will coach right now. If you called him, he'd go to a park and coach a kid. A few years ago, my family, we were out in the Hamptons, and my son was probably 8 or 9. He was going to some day camp. He came home that in the afternoon and said, "Dad, we're at the park, and this guy came home and was teaching us dribble handoffs." I'm like, okay.
Don't tell me it was Larry Brown.
Larry Brown.
That's amazing.
Like, at a local park out east in Long Island, whether he pulled on the side of the road or he knew, taught my son a dribble handoff.
Did your son tell him that he was your son?
Yeah, of course he did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then,
Yeah,
you know, he
then
came home
he
and told me
started yeah.
Larry Brown told him a dribble handoff and a back cut in the play.
Wow.
The guy loves basketball, and he's a perfectionist.
Yeah, my own selfish question before you go. My 8-year-old's pretty good. I think he's very good for his age, but like he's 8, and so like having kids growing up and the pressure to be the next Chris Mullin or Chrissy Mullin or whoever. Like, do you push your kids, or do you back off and just let them find the game on their own?
No, I think you got to let him find. I would say this, Michael. Make sure he gets the fundamental swimming, because it's a gift that'll come back. I didn't swim for 40 years. I'm back swimming almost every day. So that's a gift that you can use later on. Much like that, you can play. Yep, that. But also, it's the fine line, right? And I was talking to someone yesterday about this, of being really into it and having the passion and desire. But there's got to be the joy of playing. That's something. That's one of the reasons I moved from coaching, because I still enjoyed it. I never want to get to the point where you get bitter and you're feeling like something, they owe you something. No, man, it was great. My 4 years, it was great, and it was time to move on. Period. That's the end of story.
Yeah.
So when you're a kid, yeah, it's nice to be into it, and you want, these guys have their trainers, but you got to have fun. So that's the one thing that I think puts the great players over the top. That's why they maintain their high level of work, because they're enjoying it. When I was in the gym, I never was looking at the clock when to leave. They had to kick me out. But it wasn't because that was a hard. I was having fun. I wanted more. And that's a gift. That's a talent that kids either develop or they lose, right? Sometimes with this AU, they get run down and they get eroded, and they just get sick and tired of being critiqued and judged, and you're number 1, but then next week you're number 4. Somehow the great players, they don't care about that. They just go play. Right, and then they love doing it. So that's something I think the way you're taught is important, right? And also why you're playing. Are you playing to get money, which is a good reason? Are you playing to get recognition, which is a good reason? But to me, the main reason, get better.
Yeah,
get better than you were yesterday.
And love the game.
And then maintain that on a daily basis, right?
Yeah.
Do that for the day, and then you know what? Then go get some rest. And do it again tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what I told him. I said, hey, if I ever want to go to practice more than you do, buddy, and his name's Oliver, I said, you probably need to find another sport, because I want you to come here and love this every day, and not be a work for you, but just fun. And if it ever goes beyond that, great. If not, you're always going to love the game. But
you know how I retired? I woke up one morning, didn't want to go to shoot around, and I said, I'm done. Period.
Wow. This was in 2001 with the Warriors?
Yep, I'm out. I woke up and I said, I don't want to go shoot around. And I went right. I said, yo, I'm out. I'm done. I can't cheat the game. This is part of the process.
Who did you tell that to?
I told the owner.
Oh, wow. Who was that? Chris Cohan?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, wow. You just told that. I don't want to go. Wow.
That's it. Yeah.
I love that story. I'm going to get Bird and you on a podcast together once. It's going to be freaking gold.
Sure.
All right. Then I got to ask this before I go, because we both love Bruce Bernstein, and he's helped us both in life. He knows you wore number 17 in honor of John Hondo Havlicek, his favorite player of all time.
Yep.
And did you guys, one, did you have a relationship? And two, did an Irish kid from Brooklyn, pasty-faced Irish kid from Brooklyn, ever want to wear the green and white of the seas?
Yeah, so John Havlicek, my grade school, high school coach, Jack Alisi, was a huge Celtics fan. He had me watching the Celtics when I was in grade school, and had me watching John Havlicek. So it was kind of forced upon me.
Right.
His constant motion, his incredible fitness level, his commitment to the team. So that was my guy. That's why I emulated. And actually, I got to meet John personally. So during the '84 Olympics, we were playing in LA at the Forum. And, he was a college teammate of Bobby Knight, and Bobby Knight was our coach. So post-game, one of the games at the Forum, after the game, there was drug testing. It was random, right? So I got picked to do the drug testing. I had to go back in the room and, drink water so you can, take a leak to get tested. It took a while. the whole process takes a while. So when I came out, the team had left, and John and his wife were still in the building. And he said, "I'll give you a ride back to the dorms, wherever." And he took me to eat. So I got to sit down, have dinner with him. And what I remember more so than, I was in awe and his legendary status as a player. That's how I knew him. But just his humility. I felt like I was having dinner with someone I knew my whole life, and he was like my uncle. And it was just a heartwarming guy. And yes, that's a memory I have, that, not many people know, but and he recently passed this year. And just, again, just a guy who you talk about class and humility. That's John Havlicek.
Yeah. Mully, this has been great, man. I really appreciate the time. Like I said, the basketball was great. The things you did for others were great. But, I really salute you for your sobriety and what you've meant to helping others beyond the game. I mean, there's a lot of people who use the tool of basketball. I mean, they take basketball and they use it not as a means to an end, but they use it to help others. Man, I can't think of many more than you. So for what it's worth, thank you, man.
I appreciate that, Mike, and really it was all taught to me by my parents and mentors and teammates and coaches along the way.
And your brother Roddy.
No doubt, of course, my family. Yeah, no doubt. That's what it's all about. And like you said, it's about giving back and sharing the knowledge, sharing the love. So I appreciate it. Always good to connect.
Thank you, man. That was Chris Mullin.
All right, let's go. Time to stick the landing.
Thanks again to Mully. Thanks to my producer and Monica McNutt's loyal sidekick, Bruce Bernstein. Also to our editing wizard, Ben Wolfett. Next week, it's the best of Mike Wise with great segments from Jamal Crawford, Jeannie Buss, PJ Carlissimo, Isaiah Thomas, and many others. Peace, love, and Woodstock, all you dudes and dudettes. See ya!
The Mike Wise Show used to be called The Wise Ass Show, but it remains a presentation of Pure Hoops Media.